town of Galena, Illinois is the home of the oldest operating hotel in Illinois, the Desoto House. Many important people have been guests at the Desoto House, including former President Ulysses S. Grant, Abraham Lincoln, and former Senator Stephen A. Douglas. Since the beginning in 1855 to present day, the Desoto House has played an important role not only in Illinois history, but in national history as well. Let's learn the history of this fascinating building together. In the early 1850s, Galena reached its economic peak. Shortly after, a group called the Galena Hotel Company, which consisted of investors from the area, decided that a grand hotel should be built for the coming of the Illinois Central Railroad. More and more people began to maneuver into Galena, making the construction of a hotel a definite need.
But by the mid-1850s, the Illinois Central Railroad was approaching from the east, from Freeport. And so all of the businessmen in downtown Galena decided that we need a large hotel that will accommodate all these people that are going to be coming on the railroad.
The construction of the Desoto House started on June 2, 1853, and had its grand opening on April 9, 1855. The Galena Hotel Company named the hotel after the European discoverer of the Mississippi, Hernando Desoto. The new hotel building consisted of 5 stories and a lower level. The magnificent Desoto House contained 225 guest rooms, a ladies' parlor, and a kitchen.
On the second story, on the front of the building, today they're just sleeping rooms, but back then those were rooms called the ladies' parlors. In the early days, you ladies would not enter the hotel in the front door like everybody does today. That was the man's entrance. The ladies' entrance was on the side of the building, the south side of the building along Green Street there. And as soon as they entered the building, there was a stairway that took them right up to the ladies' parlors, and that's where the ladies hung out.
An office, retail store, and a saloon were some amenities that were added to the Desoto House years later. 4 short years after the hotel was built, a devastating disaster occurred. On June 2, 1859, a fire broke out, destroying a dozen rooms on each floor. The Desoto House was then filled with water and smoke, leaving it completely damaged. Just 10 years later, on December 7, 1869, another disaster haunted the hotel. A steam boiler that was located in the basement of the hotel exploded.
For the hotel, when it's good times, from the 1850s on, these were good times for Galena. Until post-Civil War days, things started slowing down in the 1870s. So they kind of went together. Things prospered in Galena, things prospered at the hotel. Things got slow in Galena, things got slow at the hotel.
In May of 1870, the hotel was put up for rent, and just 7 months later, the doors to the Desoto House had closed. In 1871, a man by the name of W.H. Blewett purchased the hotel, allowing Galena to once again enter into a period of success. During the Civil War period, the Desoto House began its years as the center of Galena's political and social activities. President Abraham Lincoln spoke from the Main Street balcony of the Desoto House on July 23, 1856, in support of John Fremont's bid for presidency. Just 4 short years later, on September 13, 1860, over 15,000 people crowded the streets in front of the hotel in response to a grand Republican mass meeting that supported Lincoln's presidential bid. On July 25, 1858, just 2 years after Lincoln's first speech, Senator Stephen A. Douglas spoke from that exact same balcony as Lincoln had years before. Following the Civil War, Ulysses S. Grant returned to his hometown of Galena. This even brought 25,000 citizens to the streets. Bands, parades, and cannon salutes were also present. A reception ball with 2,000 guests was then held at the Desoto House later that same day. During Grant's presidential campaign, he used rooms 209 and 211 as his campaign headquarters. Those rooms are still there today, known as Grant's Suites, along with other rooms marked by names of presidents, famous generals, and other well-known people from Galena.
Currently we have 55 guest rooms. All of those rooms are named for people of importance in history that stayed here, attended a function or gala here, or were prominent to Galena's history.
The 1800s through the 1900s was a big time for the Desoto House. In the year 1800, the 2 upper floors were removed from the hotel, making the hotel a 5-floor building to a 3-floor building.
And the same gentleman who built the hotel was still here in 1880, and he supervised the removal of those top 2 stories. His name was Asa Haley. And what he did is he jacked the roof up on screws, took the 2 stories out, and then just dropped the roof right back down on top of the remaining 2 stories.
The floors were removed due to insignificant business, weak structure to support all 5 floors, and the insurance company would not cover the building because the fire engines could not reach the top 2 floors.
With the economic conditions slowing down, basically the top 2 floors of the hotel were not even used. They were just vacant. It really fell on hard times, and so eventually that's why they decided to remove the top 2 floors in 1880. And that was quite a unique thing that they did there. But it basically was just due to the fact that Galena's economy had slowed down to such a degree. There just wasn't that many people coming here to stay in the hotel and support it.
3 years later, in 1883, the tavern, known today as the Green Street Tavern, was moved to the Green Street side of the building, and a small bowling alley was then added to the hotel. The later owners of the hotel redecorated and installed hot and cold running water and bathrooms to all floors. Renovation of the hotel was once again attempted in 1971 and 1977. 7 years went by until Mayor of Galena, Frank Einsweiler, was able to gather up all of the necessary people, and the $7.8 million restoration funding began. Over the years, the Desoto House has been a major political and social gathering place, not only for Lincoln, Grant, and Douglas, but for modern-day politicians as well. Sheila Simons just recently fundraised at the Desoto House, and Bobby Schilling recently announced his candidacy as well. Today, the Desoto House has 55 guest rooms, 3 restaurants, a ballroom, a conference room, and a banquet room. The Desoto House is the main hotel in downtown historic Galena. Galena and Joe Daviess County, with over 1 million visitors a year, makes this area the second biggest tour destination after Chicago. The Desoto House has come a long way from a grand opening to a major economic misfortune and has risen back to a period of success. Since the year that the Desoto House opened, millions of guests have stayed there. The Desoto House went from being a grand hotel in the West to today being a magnificent tour destination with tons of history behind it. Not only did candidates and presidents use this iconic hotel in the past, but they continue to use it today. It is an amazing experience to be able to meet these candidates and hear their speeches. This hotel has been through many hard times, including fires, floods, and even Great Depressions, but is still hosting events today. To casual observers who walk past, take a step inside and see for yourself the beauty and history that lies inside.